Here are 9 times when Stewie Griffin proved he is a genius. Starting with the episode Switch the Flip, where Stewie's wish to make his point almost destroyed all the people of Quahog. The story began when Brian, unhappy with his lonely and miserable life, started complaining to Stewie about it. But Stewie said the mess was Brian's fault.
Maybe if you stopped feeling sorry for yourself, you could actually do something positive with your life.
He went even further and said that if he had been in Brian's body for just one day, he could have made his life much better. Come on. Brian is living better than any other dog out there. To prove his point, Stewie decided to keep his word and switch their bodies. He built a special machine for it and asked Brian to try it.
Brian, I present to you my particle interchange transporter.
Shocked, Brian couldn't believe that Stewie had been speaking literally, and now they were about to switch bodies. But the switch went well, and now Stewie was in Brian's body, ready to improve his life. However, in reality, it didn't go as well as Stewie expected. He couldn't get a job for Brian in a local college.
Professor Griffin sucks!
And his attempts to find a girlfriend for Brian failed even worse because the girl he met turned out to be a prostitute.
Help! She's trying to eat me!
Get back here! You owe me $100!
Now, Stewie, in Brian's body, not only lost the college job, but also had a problem with an angry pimp. Well, as Brian said,
"It's hard being a dog."
Completely defeated, Stewie returned home and decided to switch their bodies back.
There's nothing I can do with this body.
But this time, things went wrong. Chris and Peter ran into the room while fighting and messed up the process. Everyone had switched bodies, and the worst part was the machine broke because too many people used it. Stuck in Peter's body, Stewie had to fix the situation and keep it a secret. But everything got even more complicated when Lois interrupted with her plans.
Please tell me you didn't forget. This is the weekend we're going to Dr. Johan's retreat.
It turned out that the retreat was for couples who wanted to spark their sex life. To keep everything a secret, Stewie had to go. But now he not only had to fix the machine in a short time, but also remotely. Brian, Chris, and Peter rushed after Stewie to save him from sex with Lois and get their bodies back.
If we hurry, we can get there before Stewie's scarred for life.
But they got into a car crash, which accidentally turned on the machine. Now, everyone in Quahog had switched bodies. Next time Brian wants to improve his life, it might be better to start with yoga. Meanwhile, at the retreat, Stewie ran out of time and Lois made her intentions very clear.
Get over here.
Stewie locked himself in the bathroom and called Brian to lead him through the repair process. He told Brian how to fix the machine, then remotely found a way to recharge it and even use lightning to power it.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
Stewie's plan worked, and at the last moment, the situation was saved. This time, Stewie wanted to help Brian, but he messed up and almost caused a big disaster in the city. Trying to help someone with untested inventions can do more harm than good. Maybe it's better to support your friends along the way instead of trying to fix everything in one day. But one day is a lot if you spend it with a bunch of celebrities you've teleported against their will. That's exactly what Stewie did in the episode Not All Dogs Go to Heaven, where his crazy idea to teleport TV stars ended in a very unexpected way. At the beginning of the episode, Stewie and his family went to the annual Quahog Star Trek convention. He was a big fan, so he had fun at the event and bought some things.
Brian, look! I purchased authentic blueprints to build a Star Trek transporter.
But his real goal was to meet the Star Trek cast. Unfortunately for him, the celebrity meeting went terribly. No one talked about the series or science, and Stewie didn't get to ask a single question. This made him angry, so he decided to take matters into his own hands.
You bastards! I'll get my question answered one way or another.
Stewie really wanted this, so he started building a Star Trek teleporter.
If my calculations are correct, the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation will soon be here to answer all my questions.
And you'll be at the top of the FBI's list a few seconds later. After working long and hard, Stewie finally finished building the device and was ready to use it. Everything went well, and now Stewie had the entire cast to ask his questions. But not all of them were happy about being kidnapped, so Stewie had to teach them a lesson.
That was a warning.
Stewie wanted to make the most of this, so he planned out the entire day for them to spend together. They started their day together at McDonald's for lunch, but Stewie quickly got annoyed because their company wasn't as fun in real life as they were on screen.
Say what?
Despite the bad first impression, Stewie decided to continue and they all went bowling. As expected, things didn't get any better and they kept annoying him.
I have to pee.
Brent, take Michael to the bathroom, please.
Okay. Look at me! I've got girl boobs!
At the end of the day, Stu was tired and very disappointed.
You people have ruined Star Trek The Next Generation for me. You are absolutely the most insufferable group of jackasses I have ever had the misfortune of spending an extended period of time with. I hope you all fucking die.
He didn't want to see them anymore, so he used his machine again and sent them away. In this episode, Stewie built a teleporter just to fulfill his wish. This idea of kidnapping celebrities would lead to legal trouble and, probably, a full-scale investigation. Sometimes it's easier to accept that your dream meeting with the cast failed and move on than to take extreme measures. But Stewie doesn't believe in taking the easy way out. In the episode Road to the Multiverse, his idea to jump through different realities almost got him killed. The story began when Stewie won a prize at the local fair for raising the best pig.
Most genetically perfect one in the contest.
Oink.
It surprised Brian, and Stewie admitted that he had actually brought the pig from another universe. Somewhere, an alternate Stewie is wondering where his prize-winning pig went. Turned out that Stewie's latest invention was a device for traveling between universes. They went to his room where he was keeping the new device. He showed it and tried to explain how it worked.
The theory states that there are an infinite number of universes coexisting with ours on parallel dimensional planes. Now, in each of these alternate universes, the reality is different than our own. Sometimes only slightly, sometimes quite radically. The point is, every possible eventuality exists.
Then they decided to try it together and began their journey across universes. A journey like this is definitely something you can't book through a travel agency. Stewie and Brian traveled through many different realities. First, they visited a better version of Quahog. Then, they saw a Japanese-style US and even a Disney-style Quahog. Brian, a talking dog in a Disney world, he's basically Goofy with a drinking problem. The more they traveled, the harder it was to return home, and the universes just kept getting weirder.
Love it.
Hate it. Love it.
Hate it.
Brian began to fear that they wouldn't make it home, and in the next world, he started to panic. But Stewie remained confident and assured him that it wasn't so difficult.
And you know, it's not as bad as you think. I may have finally figured this out. I just need to make a few more calculations.
When Stewie fixed the device and was about to send them home, Brian suddenly stopped him. It turned out that in this universe, dogs and people had switched places. Brian wanted to stay longer, but Stewie disagreed. They started to fight and Brian broke the device.
What the hell, man? What the hell? Look what you did!
Now they had to stay there until everything was fixed. Because of that, Stewie had to wear a collar and behave accordingly, which made him absolutely furious and embarrassed.
I swear to God, I hope the next universe we go to is all Koreans.
But at the local Griffins family, the situation was saved by Dog Stewie. He was also a genius and had already perfected multiverse travel. He used his own device and sent them back to their universe. In this wild ride through multiple universes, Stewie and Brian face problems and confusion, all sparked by Stewie's latest invention. Messing with realities would probably get you more than just a broken device. It could break your own reality. Sometimes it's best to leave the universe hopping to the professionals. But Stewie truly believes he's a professional. In the episode Mind Over Murder, he traveled not only through realities but also through time itself. In this story, Stewie's next genius idea came to him while he was suffering from a toothache.
Oh, you're just teething, Stewie. It's a normal part of a baby's life.
Lois was busy with housework and couldn't help him all the time. This forced Stewie to handle it on his own, and he came up with an idea.
Of course! I'll simply build a machine that can move time. I shall call it a time machine.
Wouldn't taking a painkiller be a much easier solution? He began building a time machine with a plan to speed up time and skip the teething period. However, the task was difficult, and progress was slow.
I must complete my time machine, move time forward, and end this agony.
However, things got even worse when, during a party at the Griffin's house, Lois took his blueprints and they got lost in the crowd. But Stewie wasn't about to give up so easily. He proved his intelligence once again and came up with a new idea.
Yes! Instead of moving time forward to bypass this wretched teething, it might just be possible to reverse time's heady flow and undo ever having drawn those damnable blueprints.
So he successfully activated his unfinished time machine and managed to turn back time. Unfortunately for Stewie, Peter interrupted him with his usual clumsiness and accidentally broke the machine. He had just wasted a patent worth millions of dollars. But Stewie wasn't furious anymore because the teething passed naturally.
I'm free! Free! I think not.
Stewie's attempt to skip his teething pain with a time machine ended in failure, but nature solved the problem for him. In real life, no one can escape discomfort that way. Sometimes you just have to handle it. After all, even a genius like Stewie couldn't outsmart growing pains. What Stewie can outsmart are sleep problems, just like in the episode A Lot Going On Upstairs, where he builds a device that lets Brian enter his nightmare and help him face his biggest fear. This story began when Stewie started having bad sleep.
I had a weird dream. A frightening dream.
Yeah, Stewie, that's called a nightmare. Sounds like you must have had your first one.
Afraid of having another nightmare, Stewie decided to stay awake and avoid sleeping. But this idea quickly failed, and he suffered again. Brian saw how these dreams were torturing Stewie, so he offered help. He said that Stewie's nightmares were caused by his hidden fears.
If we make a list of the things you're most afraid of, we can face and conquer these fears together.
So, Brian planned to help Stewie overcome his fears by exposing him to them.
Stewie, what the hell did you do? I opened my closet and there was an evil clown in there, so I killed him. Oh my god!
If anything, the nightmares should be the ones running from Stewie.
Fuck this.
But after this idea failed, Stewie took matters into his own hands. He built a machine to bring Brian into his dreams and fix them from the inside.
Your job is to stop these nightmares by finding that monster and killing him.
Brian agreed to the idea, and they successfully synchronized their sleep. Now, he entered the world of Stewie's nightmares. At first, Brian went to a fancy dinner with celebrities where he met Stewie. Then they found themselves in a grocery store.
Yeah, this seems rather pleasant.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they ended up in a doctor's office. They tried to run away, but their chasers and escapeways kept changing endlessly. With adventures like that, it's no surprise Brian drinks. Finally, they escaped the chase and came face to face with the final boss.
Quick, Brian, kill it!
Brian attacked the nightmare and defeated it. Now Stewie was finally free from his nightmares, and they could return home. Am I the only one disappointed that they didn't use Freddy in this episode? Stewie's attempt to fix his sleep problems with technology worked, but it put Brian through a lot of challenges. Sleep troubles can really mess up your life. It's great to have someone who can help and support you, just like Brian supports Stewie. And Stewie really likes him for that. In the episode Stewie Is Enceinte, his warm feelings toward Brian grew into a crazy idea to have a child with him. The idea of bearing Brian's child didn't come up suddenly to Stewie. It was caused by changes in their relationship.
Brian's been so distant lately, and we used to be inseparable.
Stewie was starting to feel desperate for Brian's attention. He kept inviting Brian to do things together, but he kept turning him down. Then Stewie noticed his neighbors spending time together because of their baby, which gave him a new idea.
Babies save relationships.
No.
Inspired by this idea, Stewie organized a dinner for him and Brian to talk about having kids. But Brian wasn't interested in spending time with Stewie. He kept texting the whole dinner and then just left.
I'm losing him. If we're going to fix this relationship, we need a baby, and we need it now.
Ready to take drastic action, Stewie gathered samples of Brian's DNA. Then he built a machine to bring his idea to life.
Now I just have to get into the machine, and then the machine does whatever it has to do to me in order to successfully impregnate me. We do not judge the machine, we do not judge Stewie.
Actually, we might judge a little bit. Stewie activated the machine. And the next morning, he brought Brian big news.
Brian, we're pregnant!
But Brian was absolutely unhappy about this. They had a long argument and Brian insisted on an abortion. Stewie refused to do it. Now old friends were forced to do all things for pregnant couples, but with endless fights and arguments. At least they spent time together. The situation escalated even more when it was time for Stewie to give birth.
Pull over! It's starting to come out! Kill me! This hurts too much! Holy shit! What is happening?
Now, Brian and Stewie have become a big family, but dysfunctional one. But being parents turned out to be much harder than Stewie thought. All the kids had major disabilities, and there were just too many of them. The worst part was that they didn't save his relationship with Brian, so Brian and Stewie made a radical decision.
How attached to them are you?
Not at all.
So they gave away their kids to the animal shelter. Stewie's attempt to save his relationship with Brian by having a child through sci-fi methods ended in failure. It's definitely not worth bringing new people into a relationship that can no longer be saved. People change, relationships end, and sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. However, the relationship between Stewie and Brian isn't a regular one. In the episode Bree, Robot, we saw this once again when Stewie gifted Brian a robo version of himself. This time, the story started on Brian's birthday. Despite the celebration, Brian wasn't happy at all.
It's kind of a reminder that I'm now 1 year closer to death, with nothing to show for my time here.
Not knowing what to do, Brian decided to write his autobiography to leave something behind. Stewie liked the idea and even offered to help. They started working together, with Stewie gathering information and interviewing Brian. The next morning, Brian was surprised by some good news.
Your biography is finished.
It turned out that Stewie didn't collect information for a book. He used it to build a high-tech robot copy of Brian.
This robot is a living record of you and your history. It knows you and your mannerisms, and it will exist long after you're gone.
This is what Elon Musk is dreaming about. Brian liked Stewie's gift. He started using it for work, jury duty, and even as a friend to hang out with. Brian became closer and closer to his new friend. And after Robo Brian read his book and got excited, they crossed the line. The next morning, Stewie was surprised by what happened, but it didn't change the way Brian looked at the situation.
So, is there anything we need to talk about? I don't know. Is there anything we need to talk about? I guess not.
But happiness can't last forever, and these ideal relationships started to show problems. Brian began to get annoyed by Robo Brian's behavior, how he drank, how he laughed, how he acted. Robo Brian revealed the harsh truth to him.
Brian, I'm you. I can't do it unless you've already done it.
Brian was shocked, and the more he understood, the angrier he became. Suddenly, Brian realized that he just hated himself. At that moment, Stewie stepped in and revealed that all of this was part of his plan.
To show you that the last thing you need is a detailed account of who you are and what you do.
Now, Brian realized that he didn't need to worry about his mark on this world. In this episode, Stewie's tech genius helped Brian to solve his life crisis. In reality, we often lose faith in what we're doing or what we've achieved. That's why it's important to have reliable people around who are ready to help. But Stewie was used to relying only on himself. In the episode Quagmire's Baby, when he faced problems, he turned to cloning again and brought another version of himself. This story started when Brian refused to give Stewie a lift. Because of this, Stewie was forced to change his plans, so he addressed this to his secretary. It turned out that his secretary was another Stewie, just a little lower in quality. This scene shocked Brian.
Who the hell was that? There was another Stewie right there.
Just a version ordered from Alibaba. Stewie revealed the truth to Brian. He had become very busy lately, so he cloned himself to delegate some of his tasks. It was a full-size copy of him, but with worse intelligence for obedience and safety. Later, Brian found out that Stewie was using his helper for more and more tasks. The longer the situation continued, the more jealous Brian became. When Stewie began to use his helper instead of himself for activities away from home, Brian finally dared to act.
I don't suppose you'd consider making one of those for me, would you?
Oh, maybe.
Stewie had a little hesitation and then agreed to create a clone for Brian. However, Stewie was too lazy to do it himself, so he forced his own helper to do the job. It's an entirely new level of outsourcing. As expected, Brian's helper turned out to be of much lower quality and intelligence. Every time Brian tried to use it for his tasks, it failed miserably.
Did you wash my car like I asked?
No, but I hit it with a rock.
But then things went wrong because the clones started to fall apart. Stewie said that the clones, for some reason, weren't stable, and that their lifespan had ended for now.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen to me.
With that, Stewie completed his experiment with cloned assistants. This time, Stewie tried to increase his productivity by cloning, but it was only a temporary fix. If you're overwhelmed with work, it might be better to slow down instead of finding ways to work even harder, especially when it involves untested technology.
Allahu Akbar!
But technology is a big part of Stewie's life. Even in the episode Prick Up Your Ears, when he faced a fairy tale enemy, he used a combination of his mind and high-tech devices to come out as the winner. This story started when, during toy play, Stewie accidentally lost his tooth for the first time. Chris liked what happened and tried to cheer Stewie up.
Dude, you're lucky. If you put that under your pillow, the tooth fairy will come and give you $1.
But Stewie wasn't happy at all. He wasn't familiar with the story of the tooth fairy, so the idea that someone would come to him at night scared him. Brian made the situation even worse by trying to joke on Stewie.
Yeah, she creeps into your house at night and comes into your room while you sleep.
Oh my god!
Now, Stewie was totally scared of his new enemy, and the next morning, his greatest fear came true. The Tooth Fairy had been in his room that night. The fact that a stranger had been by his bed while he was asleep scared Stewie to death.
Hand was right beneath my pillow. She could have snapped my neck if she had a mind to.
Exhale, Stewie. She collects baby teeth, not baby bones. Brian explained to Stewie that the Tooth Fairy would come every time he lost a tooth. Stewie wasn't ready to live in fear each time, so he decided to face the threat.
I have to lure her back on my terms and kill her myself.
That's Stewie we know. To defeat the fairy tale creature, Stewie relied on his intelligence once again and came up with an entire plan. At first, he was going to get some teeth as decoys. He stole a false jaw from one of the neighbors on his street. But it didn't work because the stolen implants were made of plastic. Somewhere, an old man is still confused about why his food became extra chewy. So, Stewie was forced to change his plan and make it more complicated. He knew that Brian's girlfriend had a mental illness in which someone eats too much and then intentionally vomits. And sometimes she lost her teeth because of that. Stewie figured out how to get her tooth. He invited her to a restaurant and provoked an accident of her illness.
Are you saying I'm fat?
No, I'm saying Santa's thin. Get in there and throw up!
Stewie successfully got a tooth and was ready to set a trap. He installed laser security, set a trap at the entrance, and armed himself with a shotgun. Just imagine him in Home Alone. But Stewie didn't even fall asleep when the trigger went off. It turned out that he had caught Brian, and now he was forced to tell the truth.
The Tooth Fairy isn't real.
What?
Look, I didn't want to burst your bubble since you're just a kid, but yeah, she's all smoke and mirrors.
After this, Stewie had no reason to continue his hunt. In this story, Stewie's genius was put to the test by an urban legend. He managed to overcome it, but Brian's support could have made things much easier. It's a reminder that the right help at the right time can make all the difference. And your support can make a difference too. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. See you in the next one.